will record it for our YouTube channel as we will get started with the Chumash. Where are we here? Wait. Okay. How do we? 1 second. Sorry, guys. All right. So today's Chumash is, we are holding Sunday's Chumash, and we were beginning a new parsha. We are beginning the Torah portion of Pinchas, starting from the Torah portion of Pinchas, and it's the third to last Torah portion in the fourth book. So Baruch Hashem, we are getting to the end of the fourth book of the Torah. And the story yesterday was that the evil prophet Bilam suggested to the king of the Moabites, Balak, a way to finally harm the Jews, because cursing them was not an option because God would not have it, was not allowing it. So instead, what they did was they devised a ploy in order to get the Jewish people to sin. That was their ploy that they are trying to devise. And, I forgot to mention, by the way, today's class is dedicated by Yehuda. Thank you, Yehuda, very much for dedicating today's class and many other classes, making it possible for us to continue to do this. So, so he divides the ploy, and what was his ploy? He's going to get the girls from the Moabites or the Midianites, or both of them, in order to become harlots, prostitutes, and they're going to entice the Jewish men. And when they are really excited about doing the act with them, they'll ask the Moabite or Midianite women to have relations with them. The women will quickly pull out the Pa'or idol, and they will get the Jewish men to bow to it, and that will bring havoc and destruction to the Jewish people, because Hashem hates promiscuity, and also idolatry. So that is their devious plan that they came up with in order to destroy the Jewish people, and it was a very terrible thing that happened. We said that like over 130,000 men participated in this idolatry, and a plague broke out among the Jewish people. 24,000 people died, and a man called Pinchas, who we're going to learn about today, stood up and speared. It was basically, at the end of the story was that the tribe of Shimon, I guess there were a lot of people in the tribe of Shimon that were guilty of the crime of serving the idol, and they were going to get the death penalty. They ran to their leader, whose name is Zimri, and they said, Zimri, why are you not doing anything? Our tribe is getting killed. And Zimri said, okay, I'm going to act. And he himself went and took a princess, one of the top kings of the Midianite family, and he went to have relations with her in front of everyone, and started up with Moses and started arguing with him. And Pinchas went, took a spear, and killed him and her while they were in the act. And the plague stopped, and Hashem stopped the plague from the Jewish people. And Hashem's going to talk to Pinchas now and give him a very beautiful blessing. Talk to Pinchas through Moshe and give him a beautiful blessing. You know what? I should always mention. I should mention a joke. There's a famous joke that goes around that fits right into the Chumash, so we just have to say it. There was a guy one time came to the rabbi, told the rabbi that he wants to be a Kohen. Many of you might know the joke. And the rabbi said, sorry, I can't make you a Kohen. Kept on begging him until he offered him a lot of money, $1 million. And the rabbi said, okay, for that price, we're going to make you a Kohen. And at the event, when they had a big party, he asked the guy, why do you want to be a Kohen so badly? He said, because my father was a Kohen, and my grandfather was a Kohen, and my great-grandfather was a Kohen, so I want to be a Kohen too. So the rabbi said, you know what, for another $100,000 now, I'll make your children Kohanim also. Continue see, Ira, you didn't hear that part of the joke. God, that was a new ending to the joke. Okay, I heard that in Jerusalem when I was getting a tour in the caves in the Jerusalem. The tour guide, we're talking to a bunch of yeshiva boys, and she told us the Kohen joke. And we were like, yeah, we know it. And she added on that piece. She's like, I got you guys. Okay. Verse that I heard in the tunnel tours when I was like, I don't know, 18 years old, 19 years old. I heard that in the tunnel tours in Jerusalem. Anyway, Pinchas. So here we have Pinchas. Who is this guy, Pinchas? He's Ben Elazar. He is the son of a man called Elazar. Who is Elazar? We should know already from the story. Elazar is Ben Aaron, is the son of Aaron HaKoyin, Aaron the high priest. So here we have a grandchild of Aaron. Moses and Aaron are brothers. Aaron's the high priest. Aaron, two of his children died. Two of his children remained alive. Elazar and Isamar are alive, and Elazar's son, Pinchas, is there now. Heishiv as Chamasi, and he describes in that this boy, this man, Pinchas, this young man, he revoked my anger. He moved off the wrath. Me'al B'nai Yisrael, from the Jewish people. That means that God was very angry at the Jewish people. And he was making a plague, and Jewish people were dropping dead, were dying. And he removed it. Bekanayas kinasi, by acting vengeful and zealous for God. So kind of God didn't have to now take a vengeance and make a plague among the Jewish people, because here was this man, this Pinchas, who stood up for God's dignity and God's honor. And therefore God says, okay, this man stood up, is protecting my zealousness, is being zealous kind of for me, and is acting on it, stopping the calamity among the Jewish people by killing the head of the tribe of Shimon. And therefore, I don't have to destroy any more the Jewish people in my zeal, in my anger, in my wrath, because this man is standing up. So in that, Zimri ended up killing one person, an important person, or two people, important person from the Jewish people, the head of the tribe of Shimon. But on the other hand, he saved thousands or millions of other people from dying by his act that he did. Now, Rashi gives us some very interesting behind the scenes of what took place over here. He gives you some very interesting part of the story behind the scenes. And he says, why did the Torah need to tell us who Pinchas was? The Torah doesn't always tell us who your father is, who your grandfather is. Why can't the Torah just say, Pinchas saved Hashem's wrath? No, it says Pinchas, the son of Elazar, and I want to know who his grandfather is. His grandfather's Aaron. Why is it important for us to know that he was the grandchild of Aaron? That's good news to know. Maybe, it's not walking around telling everybody who the grandchild of Aaron is, that they have a grandfather called Aaron. So Rashi is a very interesting commentary. He says that when Zimri Pinchas stood up to kill Zimri, you think he got, honor from the rest of the Jewish people? The opposite happened. They wanted to kill him. You know what they said? And they wanted to besmirch his name. They said, did you see this guy? You want to know who Pinchas is? You want to know who Pinchas' grandfather was from his mother's side? His father's father was Aaron, but you know who his grandfather from the other side was? He was Jethro, Moses' father-in-law. Jethro also was a grandfather somehow of this guy. So his father must have married the daughter of Yisro. So what's wrong with being the grandson of Yisro? Because Yisro had a dark past. Yisro used to be the priest in Midian, and he would serve idols. And he was such a big priest for idol worship that he would have animals and he would fatten them up, stuff them, so then when they brought the animals as sacrifice to the idol, it would be a good fat animal. So look at this lowlife guy who is Pinchas. Who is he? Disgusting. The nerve he has to stand up against the head of the tribe of Shimon. His grandfather was a guy, mentioning the old sins of his grandfather, used to stuff animals to fatten them up in order to be used for idolatry. And this guy has the nerve to take the matter into his own hands and go and kill a priest among the Jewish people. So the Torah says, hold on, slow down. It might be from his mother's side. From his father's side, he was the grandson of Aaron HaKohen, and therefore don't bash him so much. He also had good yichus. He had good yichus too. This reminds me of another joke. I guess we're into some jokes today. There was a kid who one time went to his parents to ask them where they came from. So he went to his father, and his father says, "Dad, where do we come from? Where does our family? Where do we originally come from?" He says, apes and monkeys. We eventually evolved from, we used to be apes and monkeys, and that's where we came from. So he's writing that in his homework. Then he goes to his mother. He says, "Mom, where did we come from?" And his mother says, "We came from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and from Adam and Eve. We came from holy stock, great things." So he says to his mother, "I don't understand." He says, "Dad told me we come from apes and monkeys, and you're telling me we come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Mother says, "What don't you understand? He's telling you his side of the family, and I'm telling you my side of the family." Anyway, So that is another joke fits in over here. So which side of the family are you from? So he might be Jethro, might be his grandfather from one side, but he's also a grandson of Aaron HaKohen. Verse 12. Therefore, God says, I'm very proud of this young man. I don't know how old he was. Actually, I keep on saying young man, but I'm very proud of this person. Say to him, I'm giving him my covenant of peace. You know, he really did something for me. I was very angry and I was upset at the Jewish people. And this guy stood up. Nobody stood up. He stood up and he avenged my anger. And therefore, I am going to give him a special blessing of peace. I'm going to give him a special covenant, a special blessing of peace. And what is my blessing of peace going to be? And for him and his descendants, this is my gift. What do I want to give him? Kunas oilam, that they'll be Kohanim forever. They'll be Kohanim forever. Because he avenged, he had zealous for my sake. He was so committed, he was so dedicated to me. And he brought forgiveness for all the rest of the Jewish people. Therefore, I'm going to make him a Kohen, and his children will be Kohanim. And it raises the obvious question, Rashi asks it from our joke that I mentioned before. What do you mean, God, you're making him a Kohen? I thought his father was a Kohen, and his grandfather was a Kohen. What's going on? Isn't that right? If his grandfather's a Kohen, Aaron, and his father, Elazar, is a Kohen, of course he's a Kohen. You're telling me, no, I'm going to make him a Kohen and make his children Kohanim. What's going on? So Rashi shares with us a very interesting part to the story here that will help us make sense out of it. He's saying, look, if you're a Kohen, automatically your descendants are Kohanim. Well, that means Aaron's a Kohen and Elazar is a Kohen. So why isn't Pinchas automatically a Kohen? He says, I'll tell you why. Because we started the Kohanic dynasty at a certain point in history. And we made Aaron a Kohen, and I made Elazar and Isamar a Kohanim, and all their children will be Kohanim. But there's a little bit of a problem. Because Pinchas was already born when God made Aaron and his two sons Kohanim. So he's not born after they became Kohanim, he's born before they became Kohanim. So now you got an issue. So if Aaron's a Kohen and Elazar's a Kohen, that Pinchas was born before they became a Kohen. Their father wasn't a Kohen when he was born, and therefore he's not automatically a Kohen. And God never made him a Kohen. God only made his father and grandfather a Kohen to begin with. And therefore Hashem said, all right, you were so zealous, you acted so committed, I'm going to make you a Kohen too. And that's why it was important for him to become a Kohen at a later point in time, because he was born too early to get the dynasty, and it had to be given to him later on. Verse 14. The shame. Okay, so now we know who was the character who killed. Well, what about the character who got killed? Who was that guy? And then the Torah is also going to tell us who was the women that he had the affair with. So first, let's talk about who was the guy that did the crime. So therefore, he's going to tell us who his lineage is to. That's one reason why we want to know who the criminal was. Another reason the Torah tells us who the criminal was because it's going to make Pinchas's act greater. Because when we know that he was a very prestigious, honorable person among the Jewish people, and Pinchas did not get afraid of that, Pinchas still stood up for what was right. So now it actually heightens what courage it took Pinchas to do. So two reasons why it tells us who the criminal was, that it was a leader. One is that, hey, just like it tells us who the good character in the story was, it will tell us who the bad character was. And the second reason is because actually it heightens the courage that Pinchas needed to have, being that he was such a prestigious person, who he was. So who was he? Shem Ish Yisrael HaMukah, verse 14. And the name of the man who was slain, Asher Huka Esa Midyanis, that he was killed together with the Midianite woman that he was cohabiting with. His name is Zimri ben Salu. His name was Zimri. He was the son of a man called Salu, and he was a very prestigious person. He was Nasi. He was the leader, base of the father's home, the chieftain, the leader of Shimoni, of the tribe of Shimon, to the Shimonite tribe. And Rashi says it's not so simple, and there's a little bit of contradictions, but at least Rashi here says that it wasn't one guy, he wasn't the number one guy. There were five different families that led the tribe of Shimon, and he was one of the five. And therefore, we're telling you who he is, that he was a powerful, very powerful person. So Shimon was one of the 12 tribes, and he was one of the top five ranking officers in the tribe of Shimon, and he was trying to fight Moses, and Zimri went and to cohabit with that women he was allowed to, and Zimri went and stood up for the honor. And who was the girl that the story happened with? Shem Isha Hamuka, in the name of the woman who was slain, who was killed. Hamidyanis, she was from the Midianite tribe. So remember, Bilam was from Midian, the Midianites, and Balak, King Balak, the prophet Bilam was from the Midianites, and King Balak was from the tribe of Moab. And I guess they had the Midianite women maybe also come. The Midianite was to the south, but they had the Midianite women get involved in order to entice the Jewish people to get them to sin. And her name was Cosby, like Bill Cosby, not to be confused with Bill Cosby. Cosby Bas Tzur, the daughter of Tzur. Her name was Tzur. And here is something interesting. She was also a daughter of a dignitary, of a very powerful man. Bas Tzur Roish Umois Beisav. He was the head, not just the top 5 originally, but he was the number 1 guy, from head of the leaders to the ancestral homes in the tribe of Midian. Who? And Rashi says, why do we want to know? Okay, I got it. Why we want to know who was the guy who committed the crime of Shimon, to tell us the courage of Pinchas. But what do we learn from the fact that this girl who was sinning, who became a harlot, was from a daughter of the most powerful man in the country of Midian? It teaches us how messed up the Midianites were and how much they hated the Jews. Which father does that? Which father wants to allow or encourage their daughter to become a harlot? And they hated the Jews so much that even the king, the most prestigious chieftain there were 5 homes there, and 5 homes, and he was the head of them. Later on, he got demoted a little bit because who does that to their daughter? And therefore, he got demoted. But he hated the Jews so much that he got his daughter to get involved in this kind of stuff because of his hatred for the Jews. And that is the story of Pinchas. So Hashem says, so following up the story, so now we got Pinchas became a Kohen, everything's nice and dandy, and Hashem says, you got to get rid of the Midianites. It's very interesting. We're not going to get rid of the Moabites, we're going to get rid of the Midianites. And Rashi explains us soon why. Why not the Moabites? The Moabites was King Balak hired the Midianites to curse them. For some reason, we keep on skipping the Moabites. We didn't want to attack them, we had to go around them. We didn't want to talk. We didn't want to bother them. And they're hiring people to kill the Jews. They're hiring the Midianites to kill the Jews. They want to attack, what's going on? And Rashi says something very interesting, that there's a famous woman whose name is Ruth. Ruth, who will be the great-great-grandmother of King David. She'll be from the tribe of Moab. She will be the Moabites. And because of that, Hashem is protecting this nation to make sure that this King David could be born from this very special woman. Very interesting part of history. Verse 16, Pasuk Tazayin. Hashem says to Moshe, saying, these people are no good, the Midianites. Distress them, attack them, harass them. And you shall smite them. It should be a constant thing. The Jewish people are now have to attack the Midianite people who tried to curse them and tried to demolish them and tried to destroy them. And now it's important for us to repay the act and get rid of them because they are destructive to the Jewish people. Verse 18. For they harassed you. They are harassing you. They distress you. With all their plans and their conspiracies, that they're conspiring against you. Look what these people are trying to do. They're trying to get you to sin. Advar Pa'ar, with the Pa'ar idol, right? That the woman pulled it out. They went to entice the men. Advar Cosby Bas Nasi. And then we had the story of the guy, Cosby, again, not to be mixed up with Bill Cosby. Cosby, the daughter of Nasi, Nasi Midian, the daughter of the Midianite prince. Achaisam, who's a sister to these Midianite people, Hamuka b'yoyma Magefa, who was killed on the day of the terrible Magefa, the terrible plague that Hashem brought on Dvar Pa'ar, that came upon the Jews because of the sin of Pa'ar. So look what havoc these people are causing to the Jewish people. So we must fight them and get rid of them to these people. Verse 1, continuing right along, and the follow-up to the story was after the plague. Right, and we know 24,000 people died, and God says to Moshe, Elazar ben Aaron, to Aaron's son Elazar, HaKoyin, the Koyin Lamar, saying, and he's going to tell them, I want you now, what I want you to do, I want you to count the Jewish people. So we have to understand what's going on. Why here? What's the connection here that we all of a sudden counting the Jewish people? You got to have a reason. So Rashi says, very simple, two answers. One answer, very simple. It was just a calamity. 24,000 people died. We got to take a census. We got to know how many people are left. So whenever we have a story where an attack, a plague comes to the Jewish people, we got to take a census. We take the census, and we have to know how many people are here. We have to know how many people are part of the Jewish people. That is one interpretation why all of a sudden, following up this story with the Midianite women that and the Moabite women, that this story takes place. The second answer Rashi says interesting is that actually, as we are wrapping up, as I started the class saying, we're wrapping up the fourth book of the Torah. It basically means very sad that we're wrapping up Moshe's life, that Moses is about to finish the great story from taking the Jews out of Egypt all the way to here. We're about to end Moshe's life. And what happens is that when the Jews left Egypt, when they began their journey, when they left Egypt, they counted the Jews, right? We got about 600,000 Jewish people then. And now that Moshe is passing away, it's time to recount the stock. This is how much I gave you. How much are you bringing back to me? What were the numbers when I gave them to you? And what are the numbers when I'm bringing back? As we're getting ready to wrap up towards the end of Moshe's life. Verse number 2. So I want you to count, God says, the heads of the tribes of the Jewish people. We've been Esrim son of Amayla from 20 years and up, because of Amayla, the base of Voisam, to the house of their fathers. Go by the father's house. Go by son after son after son. Anyone that's part of the army, part of the service. So we're going to count not all the people. We're going to count the people in the service. And here, Rashi says something very interesting that I want to share with you, that at least one of the way the commentaries explained what Rashi say. Why, and I guess kind of explains, maybe I don't know if it answers the question fully, why are we counting the men, and we're sort of leading the ancestral tribes by the father, and why not by the mothers? Rashi says that, look, there was a fear, or the commentary explains on Rashi, that there was a fear in Egypt, and that fear was that if the Jews in Egypt were slaves, especially the men were slaves in Egypt, and they had no control, they had taskmasters controlling their lives, what makes you believe that the children that the women had were really theirs? If the Egyptians were forcing the Jews to work and do whatever they wanted, why do we think the Jewish people are even Jewish? Maybe they're Egyptians. Who says that they weren't raped by the Egyptian men who were in control of everything? And all these kids are really Egyptian kids. Who's even to say it? So a very interesting context I want to share with you is that part of the goal of specifically saying the father, sons is because the Torah wants to testify to you that these are Jewish children, that we know who the fathers are, even though they didn't have DNA tests back in the day. The Torah wants to testify. It's very important for us to let you know that these are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and these are the children of this family, that it's Aaron's son, right? And it's the sons of Levi, that everything is true, and therefore it's an interesting twist, explanation of why the Torah constantly finds it necessary to count based on the fathers and not the mothers, because the mothers, we know who the child is. The fathers, we don't know who the child is. It's just something very interesting I saw. I wanted to share that with you. Verse 3. Hashem spoke to Moses and to Elazar, to the second in command Kohen, Arvis Moav, in the plains of Moab, in the Moabite plains, to the north of that river that I always show you in the map, by the Jordan, and they're guarding Yericho, they're right next to the Jordan, Lamar, saying, and he's telling Hashem says, I command you to count the Jewish people and go with me, Benes and Shana B'Mayla, verse 4, from 20 years and up, exactly Hashem commanded Moses. They're now telling over to Jewish people, all the children of Israel came out of Egypt. We need you counted, and we need those numbers, and we'll continue with Hashem's help tomorrow's Chumash, to see the counting and so on, what takes place. Any questions or comments on today's very interesting Chumash? Oh, yeah, I forgot to record. Unfortunately, I don't have today's Chumash recorded. Somebody remind me next time. Remind me to record. I started forgetting again the last few times. Any questions or comments on today's Chumash? If not, we will move on to very interesting time that we have in today's class, and then we got to go for lunch after that. Okay. So, my friends, at least we'll have the time recorded. Okay. Let's go to, I don't know if you could, by the way, download Facebook videos, because it is on Facebook. So I wonder if there's a way to, if anybody knows, I'm going to ask Brad to do it if nobody steps up. there's a way to get the videos from Facebook downloaded, that would be pretty cool.